Assalamu alaikum students. Our today's topic is gross anatomy of oral cavity and palate. So let's start with the topic. First of all, you should know that oral region includes the oral cavity, teeth, gingiva, tongue, palate and the region of palatine tonsil. But today we will discuss only the oral cavity and palate, which includes hard and soft palate. Now the oral cavity. Oral cavity is divided into two parts, an outer part which is called the vestibule and an inner part which is called the oral cavity proper. Here in this diagram you can see this smaller narrow space is called the vestibule and this larger cavity is called the oral cavity proper. Oral vestibule. It is a slit-like narrow space bounded externally by the lips and cheeks and internally by the teeth and gums. Here you can see this narrow space which is called the vestibule of mouth or oral vestibule, which is bounded externally by the lips and cheeks and internally by the teeth and gums, upper and lower teeth and gums. Now this communicates with the exterior through the oral fissure and interiorly it freely communicates with the oral cavity proper when the mouth is open. An important feature of the vestibule of mouth is that the parotid duct opens in the vestibule of mouth opposite the crown of the upper second molar tooth, as well as numerous labial and buccal glands are also open into the vestibule. Now here you can see the opening of the parotid duct in the vestibule of mouth opposite the crown of second upper molar tooth. The oral cavity proper. It is a space between the upper and lower alveolar arches, which are maxillary and mandibular alveolar arches respectively. It is bounded anterolaterally by teeth and gums and the alveolar arches of the jaws. The roof is formed by hard and soft palate. The floor is occupied by the tongue posteriorly and presents the sublingual region anteriorly. Posteriorly, the cavity communicates with the pharynx through the oropharyngeal isthmus. Now, what is the oropharyngeal isthmus? It is a narrow opening and we will discuss it in detail later in this lecture. Now look at this diagram. Here you can see the oral cavity proper between the upper and lower alveolar arches. Now this cavity is bounded anterolaterally by the teeth and gums and the roof is formed by the hard and soft palate and the floor is formed by the tongue posteriorly, and here anteriorly you can see this sublingual region below the tip of the tongue. Posteriorly it communicates with the pharynx through this oropharyngeal isthmus. Now here are some external features of the sublingual region. As you all know that sublingual region is present at the floor of the mouth and below the tip of the tongue. When the tongue is being elevated, you can see these external features. First of all, in the median plane, here is the fold of mucosa that extend from the inferior aspect of the tongue to the floor of the mouth. This is called the frenulum of the tongue. On each side of the frenulum of the tongue, there is the sublingual papilla, which shows the opening of the submandibular duct. Running laterally and backwards from the sublingual papilla, there is sublingual fold which overlies the sublingual gland and shows the opening of the sublingual ducts. Now the palate. The palate forms the arched roof of the mouth and the floor of the nasal cavities. Now in this diagram, here you can see the palate, below there is oral cavity and above there is nasal cavity. Now the palate is forming the floor of the nasal cavity and the roof of the oral cavity. Now in this next diagram, here you can see that the palate is separating the nasal cavity and nasopharynx from the oral cavity. Now the superior surface of the palate, which is related to the nasal cavity, is covered by the respiratory mucosa, and its inferior surface, which is related to the oral cavity, is covered by the oral mucosa, which is densely packed with the glands. The palate consists of two regions. The anterior bony part is called hard palate, and the posterior non-bony part is called the soft palate. The hard palate. Its anterior 2/3 are formed by palatine process of the maxilla, and its posterior 1/3 by the horizontal plates of palatine bones. Here in this diagram you can see its anterior 2/3 is formed by the palatine process of the maxilla, and its posterior 1/3 is formed by the horizontal plates of palatine bones. It has an anterolateral margin and a posterior margin. Its anterolateral margin is continuous with the alveolar arches and gums, and its posterior margin gives attachment to the soft palate. And it has two surfaces, superior surface and inferior surface. Superior surface forms the floor of the nasal cavity, and here you can see the inferior surface, which forms the roof of the oral cavity. Now the incisive fossa is a depression in the midline posterior to the central incisor teeth, into which the incisive canals open. And when you see in the posterior 1/3, you can see medial to the third molar tooth, here is a foramen, which is called the greater palatine foramen, which transmits the greater palatine nerves and vessels. Posterior to the greater palatine foramen, there is lesser palatine foramina, which pierces the pyramidal process of the palatine bone and transmits the lesser palatine nerves and vessels. Now this suture, you can see this is the intermaxillary suture, and this one is the interpalatine suture. Now this horizontal suture is the palatomaxillary suture, and these all sutures combine to form the cruciform appearance. Here are some superficial features of the palate. The mucosa of hard palate is tightly bound to the underlying bone. Deep to the mucosa are mucus secreting palatine glands. The opening of ducts of these glands give the palatine mucosa a pitted appearance. Here we are talking about the oral surface of the hard palate. Here you can see it is tightly bound to the hard palate. So the submucosal injections are very painful, and here are the pits showing the opening of the palatine glands. Now in the midline posterior to the maxillary incisor teeth is the incisive papilla. Here is the incisive papilla is present. Now radiating laterally from the incisive papilla are several parallel transverse palatine folds or rugae. Now here you can see these parallel transverse folds, which are called the palatine folds or rugae. Passing posteriorly in the midline of the palate from the incisive papilla is a narrow whitish streak, the palatine raphe. Okay, now here you can see the palatine raphe. Vessels and nerves of the hard palate. Arterial supply of the hard palate is from the greater palatine artery, which is the branch of the maxillary artery. Here you can see the greater palatine artery, which arises from the greater palatine foramen and supplying the hard palate. Veins drain into the pterygoid plexus of veins, and lymphatics drain mostly to the upper deep cervical and partly to the retropharyngeal nodes. Nerve supplying the hard palate is the greater palatine and nasopalatine branches of the pterygopalatine ganglion. Here you can see the greater palatine nerves, which also arises from the greater palatine foramen and supplying the hard palate, and these nasopalatine nerves which are coming from the incisive canals. Soft palate. It is a movable muscular fold suspended from the posterior border of the hard palate. Now here you can see this non-bony part of the palate, which is a muscular fold suspended from the posterior border of the hard palate. It has two surfaces, anterior surface and posterior surface, and two borders, superior and inferior border. Its anterior surface is concave and is marked by a median raphe, and its posterior surface is convex and is continuous with the floor of the nasal cavity. Its superior border is attached with the posterior border of the hard palate, blending on each side of the pharynx, and its inferior border is free and bounds the pharyngeal isthmus. Here you can see this inferior border of the soft palate, which is free and bounds the oropharyngeal isthmus. From its middle there hangs a conical projection which is called the uvula. From each side of the base of the uvula, two curved folds of the mucous membrane extend laterally and downwards. Now these are two folds. Anterior fold is called the palatoglossal arch, which is formed by the palatoglossus muscle of the soft palate, and posterior fold is called the palatopharyngeal arch, which is formed by the palatopharyngeus muscle. Oropharyngeal isthmus or the isthmus of the fauces. The oropharyngeal isthmus is a narrow passage between pharynx and at the base of the tongue, bounded superiorly by the soft palate, laterally by the palatoglossal and palatopharyngeal arches, and inferiorly by the tongue. So basically the oropharyngeal isthmus is the connection or the opening or passage between the oral cavity and the pharynx. Here you can see in this diagram, this narrow opening is the oropharyngeal isthmus, which is bounded superiorly by the soft palate, inferiorly by the tongue, and on each side there are two folds or two arches, which are palatoglossal arch and palatopharyngeal arch. These arches forms the pillar of the fauces. The anterior pillar is the palatoglossal arch which is formed of the palatoglossus muscle, and the posterior arch is formed by the palatopharyngeus muscle and is called the palatopharyngeal arch. These arches forms the pillar of the fauces or this narrow opening, and between these two arches there is the tonsillar fossa is present on the lateral wall of the oropharynx, which bears the palatine tonsil. Structure of the soft palate. The soft palate has no bony skeleton. It is a fold of mucous membrane containing the following parts. The palatine aponeurosis. It is a flattened tendon of the tensor villi palatini, which is one of the muscles of the soft palate. It forms the fibrous basis of the palate and provides attachment to the other muscles of the soft palate, and it itself attaches to the posterior edge of the hard palate. Near the median plane, the aponeurosis splits to enclose the musculus uvulae. Now here in this diagram, this gray colored structure shows you the palatine aponeurosis, which attaches to the posterior border of the hard palate. A few taste buds are located in the epithelium covering the oral surface of the soft palate. The muscles of the soft palate include tensor villi palatini, levator villi palatini, palatoglossus, palatopharyngeus, and musculus uvuli. This table is showing the muscles of the soft palate, their origin, insertion, innervation, and main action. So, first the tensor villi palatini. It arises from the scaphoid fossa of medial pterygoid plate, spine of sphenoid bone, and cartilage of pharyngotympanic tube. It flattens out to form the palatine aponeurosis, which is attached to the posterior border of the hard palate. Its action is to tenses soft palate and opens mouth of pharyngotympanic tube during swallowing and yawning, and equalize air pressure between the nasopharynx and middle ear. Then the levator villi palatini. It arises from the cartilage of pharyngotympanic tube and petrous part of temporal bone, and inserts on the superior surface of the palatine aponeurosis. It elevates soft palate during swallowing and yawning. Then the palatoglossus muscle. It arises from the oral surface of the palatine aponeurosis, and it inserts on the side of the tongue. Its action is to elevate posterior part of the tongue and draws soft palate onto the tongue. Then the palatopharyngeus muscle. It arises from the hard palate and palatine aponeurosis, and inserts on the lateral wall of the pharynx. It tenses the soft palate and pulls walls of pharynx superiorly, anteriorly, and medially during swallowing. Then the musculus uvuli. It arises from the posterior nasal spine and palatine aponeurosis, and it inserts onto the mucosa of the uvula. It shortens the uvula and pulls it superiorly. Now the nerve supply of the muscles of the soft palate. All the muscles of the soft palate is supplied by the pharyngeal branch of vagus nerve via the pharyngeal plexus, which carries the cranial part of the accessory nerve, except the tensor villi palatini. Tensor villi palatini is supplied by the mandibular nerve. Now these diagrams are showing you the attachment of the muscles of the soft palate. In this diagram, you can see these muscles of the soft palate from the inferior surface of the skull. Here you can see the tensor villi palatini muscle, which arises from the lateral surface of the auditory tube, and the fibers converge to form the delicate tendon which binds around the pterygoid humulus. This one is the pterygoid humulus, and then it flattens to form the palatine aponeurosis, which attaches to the posterior border of the hard palate. Now this muscle is the levator villi palatini. This also arises from the lateral surface of the auditory tube and the petrous part of the temporal bone, and it inserts on the superior surface of the palatine aponeurosis. This one is the musculus uvuli, which arises from the palatine aponeurosis and inserts on the mucosa uvuli, and this is the posterior wall of the pharynx. Now in this diagram, this is the posterior view showing the muscles of the soft palate. This one is the nasal cavity, and then the tensor villi palatini muscle, then levator villi palatini muscle. This is the musculus uvuli, and this one is the palatopharyngeus muscle, which arises from the palatine aponeurosis and inserts on the lateral wall of the pharynx. Palatoglossus muscle you cannot see in this view. Passavant's ridge. It is a small prominence in the posterior pharynx. Some of the upper fibers of the palatopharyngeus pass circularly deep to the mucous membrane of the pharynx and form a sphincter internal to the superior constrictor muscle. These fibers on contraction raises a ridge called the Passavant's ridge on the posterior wall of the nasopharynx. Now look at this diagram. Here the superior constrictor muscle is elevated and you can see the Passavant's ridge. Now the role of the Passavant's ridge is during swallowing. When the soft palate is elevated, it comes in contact with this ridge, the two together closing the pharyngeal isthmus between the nasopharynx and oropharynx. Now the vessels of the soft palate. Arteries supplying the soft palate are the greater palatine artery, which is the branch of maxillary artery, ascending palatine artery, branch of facial artery, and palatine branch of ascending pharyngeal artery. Veins drain into the pterygoid and tonsillar plexus of veins. Lymphatics drain into the upper deep cervical and retropharyngeal lymph nodes. Now the nerve supply of the soft palate. Motor supply, we already discussed that all muscles of the soft palate are supplied by the pharyngeal plexus, and the fibers of this plexus are derived from the cranial part of accessory nerve through the vagus, except tensor villi palatini, which is supplied by the mandibular nerve. General sensory nerves are derived from the middle and posterior lesser palatine nerves, which are the branch of maxillary nerve through the pterygopalatine ganglion. The glossopharyngeal nerve is supplied the posterior surface of the soft palate. Now the mucosa of the soft palate contains some gland and few taste fibers. So the secretomotor and gustatory pathways are as follows. First of all, the secretomotor fibers. The preganglionic fibers arises from the superior salivatory nucleus, then pass through the nervus intermedius into the geniculate ganglion, where there is no relay of these fibers, and they pass through the greater petrosal nerve, then deep petrosal nerve, then to the nerve to the pterygoid canal. Then these fibers reach to the pterygopalatine ganglion. Here these fibers relay, and then the postganglionic fibers pass to the anterior palatine nerve and then lesser palatine nerve, and finally they reach in the glands which are present in the soft palate. Now here is the gustatory pathway. A taste from the soft palate is taken by the nerve fibers, then they pass through the lesser palatine nerve, anterior palatine nerve, and they reach the pterygopalatine ganglion. Here the fibers do not relay and pass to the nerve of pterygoid canal, then greater petrosal nerve, then they reach to the geniculate ganglion. Here these fibers relay and postganglionic fibers pass to the nervus intermedius, and finally they reach to the nucleus of tractus solitarius. Now the most important clinical correlate is the Ludwig's angina. It is a type of severe cellulitis involving the floor of the mouth. The majority of the cases follows a dental infection. Other causes include parapharyngeal abscess or submandibular salivary stones. It is rapidly spreading infection of connective tissue through the tissue spaces. It specifically involves the submandibular, submental and sublingual spaces. Early on, the floor of the mouth is raised and there is difficulty swallowing saliva, results in drooling of saliva from the person's mouth. As the condition worsens, the airway may be compromised. This cellulitis may spread backwards to cause edema of larynx and asphyxia. So this can be a life-threatening condition, and in this picture you can see the patient of Ludwig's angina. Externally you can see the swelling in the submandibular region and in the upper part of the neck, and when the floor of the mouth is raised, then this condition can be present, and it should be treated timely and properly because it can be life threatening.